get more on how all of this is impacting the U.S. economy, we have Stan Veuger, who's an economist with the American Enterprise Institute, where he specializes in public finance. Stan, we're really happy to have you. Thanks so much for coming on. There's a lot of talk about how these stimulus measures are going to mitigate some of the damage that we're seeing from the economy. You have another 6.6 million Americans that have filed for jobless claims. That brings the total to more than 17 million Americans, and it could be even more because a lot of those claims just haven't been processed yet. What is the administration, do you think, doing enough? They've put together a coronavirus economic task force team to try to mitigate some of this damage. Are they doing enough right now to sort of lessen the damage that we're going to see at the end of this?
Well, I think the Congress and the Federal Reserve in particular actually have acted quite proactively, much more aggressively than they did around the time of the global financial crisis, now a little over 10 years ago. So the Congress passed a massive relief bill last week. Quite a bit of the money has been going out already. There are already talks of expanding the small business program that was included in that bill. At the same time, the Federal Reserve has bought up tons of assets in order to provide liquidity to really businesses of all sizes and against securities of all kinds of types.
And when we look at the stock market today and what's happening on Wall Street, and when you look at those unemployment numbers, you really see a disconnect that the stock market right now is not an indicator of how the U.S. economy is doing as a whole.
Well, the stock market is still down dramatically compared to the beginning of the year, of course. And so I think the way you should think about the days on which the stock market goes up, it's when people reduce their level of extreme pessimism slightly, right? And so today, the initial claims numbers we saw obviously were terrible, and they now add up just over the past 3 weeks to about 10% of the U.S. labor force. And so that's obviously a horrendous number. At the same time, we did see the policy response develop. So today, specifically, the Federal Reserve announced that it would buy up loans to small businesses made under the new small business program from banks so that they can continue to lend more money to small businesses. It announced that it would backstop the commercial real estate market, and it also expanded some of its existing interventions in the market for corporate bonds. And so I think you should see the stock market response as a reaction to those interventions. And what they express, I think, is some hope that the future will not be as terrible as the current situation is, as indicated, for example, by the initial claims report.
Stan, the president's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, has been suggesting that the administration may be looking at reopening parts of the economy in the next month or two, on a rolling basis. What's your take on that and how that would sort of help with the recovery?
Well, I think, Larry Kudlow's predictions over the past few months and honestly going back all the way to the financial crisis have not been particularly good. So I don't know that I would attach too much value to his prognostications. I don't think we have clarity yet on when the epidemic will peak all across the U.S. I mean, there are states, obviously, where the pandemic is in a very different position than it is in New York or that it has been in Washington State and California. We also just don't really know what we'll be able to do once the infection rate is brought under control, to what extent we can really go back to normal. I don't think that Kudlow has a particularly good sense of that either. So I don't know. I wouldn't put too much weight on those words.
All right, Stan Veuger, we really appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much for that.